So we're live now. We're live now.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So basically, we were invited.
Hold on. Let Jacob introduce.
Okay. Hold on for just one. We're going to do a countdown, guys, and we're going to come back in. So welcome back to the Chatterbox with King Jacob with another splendid topic on this lovely Friday night. We're going to be talking about the history of Black firefighters. And as followed, I'll let these gentlemen introduce themselves. We'll start with you, my good brother Muhammad.
Thank you, Brother King Jacob. Peace and blessings to your viewing audience. I'm grateful to be on your show, sir. I was blessed to have a 30-year career in the fire service in the city of White Plains, New York. I retired as a lieutenant. I was also humbled to be the president, the 8th president of the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters, which at the time had anywhere between 6,000 and 8,000 members in the continental U.S., the Caribbean, membership in Africa, the United Kingdom, and some in Central and South America. So that's pretty much my career in a Snapchat. And of course, I'm honored to be on your show, sir.
Appreciate it. And, we have the incomparable Mr., Donald Crenshaw, Apex Films. And, I've had the pleasure of talking with him on the phone, and I did some research and reading up on him. You're a pretty exclusive brother, so I'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself and get into what all you do in your line of work as well.
Well, it's interesting to have that acknowledgement. It's always good because we work so hard and don't always get it. So that's good. Thank you. I'm Donald Crenshaw, a film producer, director. I helped write the storyline for Stump the Art 11 years ago. I worked and interned with people like Dallas Austin and Atlanta, major producer, toured with several people in the industry back in the days as a drummer. And currently I'm producing and directing this awesome, we like to say epic documentary that we're bringing forth to the people. It's called Our Community Heroes. And the reason why we chose that title is because there are so many unseen heroes in our community. And so basically that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you for that. And my good brother I've been talking to all week, I'm gonna call him Uncle Duery, because I feel like we built that relationship. So, and he shared a few things with me. So I welcome, Mr. Duery Smith to introduce himself and tell, what he does and, his level of, being a Black firefighter as well.
Yes, my name is Duery Smith. I'm a retired New York City firefighter. I did over 20 years in the same company, pretty busy. I met Donald about 3 years ago, and we were in Charlotte, and we were talking about the fact that Black people in the fire service go through some unnecessary hurdles. And we said, our history, our narrative has been taken away from us. We need to reclaim it. So we got together and we said to ourselves, let's put out a documentary. That was 3 years ago. Finally, we got back together, and now we're in the process of doing that, because in this climate that we're living in right now, it's necessary, to put our narrative out there in a way that expresses the accomplishments, achievements, and challenges that we face as firefighters, men and women in the fire service. and looking forward to just give you some information throughout the course of this conversation to let you know some of the things that we've experienced and the shoulders that we stand on to move our generation forward so that we can make this a better place for all that choose to be firefighters, to make it a welcome environment.
Okay, thank you for that, Brother Smith. I really appreciate that. And next we have City Councilman of Blackwood, South Carolina, Sloan J. Griffin III. And I'll let him tell you his reign when it comes to firefighters and all what he does as a city councilman as well.
Yeah, so thank you, Jacob. Thank you, brother, as always. Much love and respect to you and the family. We got a lot of history together, so I do appreciate you welcoming me back to the show for tonight. And gentlemen on the line, much love and respect to you guys also for being on the line, being on the front line of the fight for 30 years. So I thank you guys for that. And my brother, film producer, thank you for highlighting what these brothers have went through. I salute you. And thank you for highlighting the future, because as these gentlemen represent, they went through the hardcore time of the fire service, in my opinion, was Black brothers. So just a little bit quick rundown about me. I'm currently hold a city council, a town council seat here in Blythewood, South Carolina. But my career started as a firefighter. So that's in my blood. From 2005 to now, I currently hold a full-time position as the emergency manager for South Carolina Department of Transportation. So I've done the firefight. I moved up in rank. The highest rank I had was Chief of Fire Prevention out here on Camp McCready, which is on the backside of Fort Jackson. So everybody know Fort Jackson is the largest infantry training base in the country. So, and then I done my work with FEMA as a reservist. I was a planned section chief, so I got all kind of deployment experience there. But can't wait to get into this conversation, man. So let's roll with it, brother.
All right, so let's roll with it. And I just want to say, guys, man, I just want to thank you guys once again, man, because I am a history guy when it comes to my people and all the accomplishments and what they went through. I just when Cyrus gave me this call and he told me, he said, man, like, I need them on your show. I think this is going to be great for what you stand for, and these guys are going to bring some education to the masses. So let's get into this education. So let's talk about the history of Black firemen. Should we say Black firefighters? What is the history? What is the history behind it? And just educate the masses and educate me so I can share it with the community as well. So, we're going to start with you, Mr. Muhammad, Brother Muhammad. Should I say King Muhammad? We're going to start with you, and we're going to let you get in depth to what you can shed light on.
Yes, sir, Brother King Jacob. Thank you for that wonderful question. One of the profound historians in our community, Dr. John Henry Clark, would say history is like a map. It gives you a guideline of where you're going in terms of direction. And just to move it up to technology, it's like a GPS, a global positioning system, our history, Malcolm would say it like this, that of all of our studies, history is best qualified and most attractive to reward our research. And it helps us as a springboard for our actions. So I'm blessed to work with two brothers, Brother Oshiemi Adelibu, who's also the 5th president of the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters. And he has his own radio show called African Perspectives. And I say that because he teaches the history that goes all the way back to our original motherland. You see, if you talk about black firefighters, you got to talk about being black first. And if there was fire, we were the first firefighters. So he gives us the history of the classical African civilizations before we got here to the shores of North America. And then when you talk about the history of the black firefighter here in America, I'm also working with a brother by the name of Brent Burton, who's a captain on the Los Angeles County Fire Department, but he also heads and has headed the African American Firefighter Museum that is located in Los Angeles on Central Avenue, which they took an old firehouse and turned it into a museum. So he gives the history of the black firefighter in America as well as I. So as it goes, let's just go back to, I know Brother Duery will talk about Chief Wesley Williams out of New York City when he came on the job in New York in the 40s. But if you go back to the 30s, many of the blacks in America had segregated firehouses, you see. So whether it was the 1700s or the 1800s, many of the blacks were in segregated firehouses protecting their community and the community of others. It wasn't until maybe the late 50s that blacks began to become integrated in the major cities across the country. So whether you started in Oakland on the West Coast and made your way east to Atlantic City on the East Coast, most of the communities' fire service was segregated. But at a certain point, certain major cities became integrated in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. For the most part, most blacks started coming into the fire service. And I have to mention our brother George Collins out of Baltimore, who also is a historian. And we work together on that history. So whether we're teaching the course at Dillard University, the history of the black firefighter in America, or because of technology, you can go to various websites of the IABPFF, of Dr. Carl Holmes Executive Development Institute. There's a wealth of knowledge of the blacks in the fire service. And I'll close with this statement, Brother King Jacob, that for me, you know, when you look at the history of blacks in the fire service in America, it's just as important to the fabric of America as the Tuskegee Airmen, as the Negro baseball leagues, as the historical black colleges and universities, and as America's first musical genre, jazz. Why do I say that? Because for blacks to come on an integrated fire service at the time that they came on, they had to have the discipline of the military. They had to have the athleticism of a Hall of Fame athlete. They had to have the research and development of an HBCU, and they had to have syncopation and improvisation to get through this racism and discrimination that this country is, you know, known for. Thank you, beloved.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, moving right along, we're gonna go with you, Brother Crenshaw. So, being that you've learned the history of black firefighters, what does this mean to you as a film producer, as a music composer? You know, what does this art form do for you as a film director, casting director, a person who writes dialect when it comes to films?
I'm excited, Brother Muhammad. When you went back to the beginning, as a filmmaker, I'm seeing this and I'm getting ideas of what more to bring. So I don't know all the history. I'm still learning. And so with people like Brother Muhammad being a historian, I get more. You know what I mean? And so like when you take a story like Duery's falling 2 stories, crushing his ankles, and being here to speak about it, it's something that I want to bring to people to understand exactly what goes on and to see it. I mean, I know we see it on television, but to see somebody specifically that's still able to tell the story is quite exhilarating for me. And so with Brother Muhammad just speaking on going to the beginning, Man, that resonates so much because it's true. Because our ancestors were the first peacemakers on this earth. You know what I mean? And everything spun. So you're right. It had to be them that dealt with the first fire. So when I hear that, I'm thinking of how to show that to people. You know. So the whole thing excites me. Just the fact that we tell another piece of history that would never be told in the way that we plan to bring it to the people.
Okay.
And
I can
entertainment.
Right.
Yeah.
Education is everything, because education and entertainment goes hand in hand, because with entertainment, you learn a lot of education as well. And with
Absolutely.
education, you learn a lot of entertainment as well.
This is true.
So I can definitely dig where you're coming from as a film director. And so next up is Uncle Duery, man. Listen, man, it's been a pleasure conversing with you all week, man. So we're talking about the history of Black firefighters. So, give me your theory. Give me the level of expertise that you have on this subject.
Well, we start off by saying, and almost every person of color will start off saying, we stand on the shoulders of those that came before us. Gentlemen like Arnie Hyacinth, Dave Floyd, Wesley Williams. These people were warriors, you know. Back in when Wesley Williams first came to the firehouse, he was assigned in Little Italy, and the captain quit that day, left. You know, he didn't want to work with a black person. They assigned him a black bed where he had to sleep, and there was only like 3 other blacks on the job around that time, and they all used that same bed. When they ate dinner, they took their plates and threw them in the garbage and the silverware, threw it away. They were treated so horrifically. It's a shame. It's really a shame. Mm-hmm. So basically, I'm gonna show you a couple of things. This book here, I don't know if you can see it. It's a brother, Decal Walcott from Chicago. He tells the history of the Chicago firefight and the firefighters that came up in Chicago, and the things that they had to put up with segregated firehouses, and how horribly they treated us. You know, another book that everybody should read if you really want to know the history of blacks in the fire service, Firefight. This book right here will explain it to you. It brings you up to the present day of, you know, the firefighting service is a microcosm of society. You know, what boggles my mind is how, and I work with some great guys. You know, I've seen a lot, and the guys I work with, they will actually put their lives on the lives for people they don't know, and probably wouldn't even talk to. You know. And that boggles my mind how guys could do that and then treat people that look like us the way they do, you know. And what's even worse is it's systematic. It's entrenched in the behavior of the management all the way down, you know. So it's our fight to expose that. And that's why Donald and I got together to sit down with people who went through these experiences and tell their stories so that we can take back the narrative. And it's like they say about slavery. Now they're trying to change the narrative and say they were indentured servants, or they were treated fairly, you know, whatever. No, that didn't happen, you know. And the same thing in the fire service. We had to do more than we should have had to do in order to prove that we can do the job. And it continues to today. And we need to speak out about it. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. And that's why we're putting forth this project. And hopefully people will support it. But if you really want to know the history of Black firefighters, like Brother Muhammad had mentioned, George Collin, he and I would sit down periodically. He's establishing a museum for Black firefighters in Baltimore. You know, there are a few across the country, and we need to take more initiative to visit these places, support these places, and find out our history, because going back to throughout time, Black people have been instrumental. This country would not be here without us. This is the bottom line. And we show it in our service in any field that we're in. We give our all, even though we don't receive the respect and treatment that we deserve. So basically, there's a gentleman named Paul Washington who was very instrumental in New York. He's a warrior. And most Black people, unfortunately, have to be warriors, because there's so much that needs to be done to put the message out there that, yes, we can do this job, we can do it well, and how beautiful a job it is. I mean, how you can raise your family, how you could, be a role model in your community. It's so much that this job offers that we need to expose that to our children, to the people in our lives, so that they can benefit from what this job offers. And what I would say is, if you see a Black firefighter, just stop them, talk to them, tell them thank you for your service. All right, because we do this because we love our community and we love the job. I'll leave it with that.
All right. We appreciate that, man.
I'll accept any questions. If anyone has any question out there in your audience, I'll be
okay. Chantel Evans says, "Wow, this is very informative. We never hear about the segregated firehouses or the treatment of our firefighters. What made you all want to become firefighters, and were you aware of the treatment that Black firefighters would receive in the workplace? I salute you all and look forward to learning more about the history."
May I start that conversation?
Please do.
I grew up in Williamsburg and Bed-Stuy. My family was saved literally twice in a fire situation. My parents were unconscious. My brothers and sisters dragged out by snotty-nosed Caucasian people. And I said to myself, if I ever get the chance to do this job, I'm going to do it. And I took the test, me and another brother that grew up with me, Ali Pasha from Harlem. And we both came on together, and both of us are highly decorated. And we were able to assist people in need, because I was very thankful for the assistance that I got and my family got from people that were strangers, So that's what drove me to it, and I got hurt, unfortunately, because I'd probably still be working. I did over 20 years, but I got hurt. I fell through a roof, 2 stories, shattered my feet, had to learn how to walk again, but I know the value of seeing a Black face with that uniform on in our community. And that's what we're trying to increase. Right now, we're only 9% of the fire force in New York City, and that's unacceptable. So, we're trying to change that narrative.
Okay, thank you for that. And next we have City Councilman Sloan J. Griffin III, which is, he's been an ex-firefighter as well. So with you hearing the history, yep, and you being an ex-firefighter, and you working with a lot of people that had lost their homes to fires and natural disaster as well, because a lot of houses caught on fire through, Hurricane Katrina and all the natural disasters like that. So when you transition from a firefighter to a city councilman, how do you feel about hearing these guys talk about the history of it? And it's so much history in it, man. Like, I'm just baffled, man. Like, they got my wheels turning so much, man. I'm like, wow, man. And I never know none of this, man. So these is brothers that I'm gonna adopt as uncles for a lifetime. So get ready. Yeah, you got a new nephew. So, hey, but
you're gonna have 2 nephews.
Go ahead, Councilman, and tell me, your side of the story.
Yeah. So I like I said in the beginning, I salute you guys, because I know just by listening, not just to you, but to the folks that recruited me. The question the young lady asked earlier, I'm only 34 years old. So, I'm that generation that came in after you guys off of the work that you've done to spread, to recruit, and retain more of us in the fire service. Going back on her question before I get to yours, Jacob, I was unique in how I got my start. I didn't imagine being a fireman. It never crossed my mind to be a firefighter. I played sports, so I was in shape. Like you said, we're warriors. I'm in shape. I could do the job. But I was approached by a well-known Black firefighter in my hometown. I worked at Lowe's during my senior year, and the MDA boot drive. Well, y'all know that. So they were there doing the MDA boot drive.
Mm-hmm.
And this brother said, "Hey, Sloan, what you gonna do? Ain't you finna graduate?" I said, "Man, I don't know. I might work at my dad's shop. I don't know what I'm gonna do really." He said, "I'm gonna bring you something." I didn't know what he was, talking about. Next time I seen the brother, he brought me an application for the city fire department. And you guys gonna laugh at this. I said, he was the only Black fireman standing up there with 4 other firemen. And the person in the white, I didn't know rank at that time, but I do now. But the guy in the white shirt was a real heavy set white guy. And, I know he didn't look right to me as a young man. And I told the brother, I said, "Man, let me tell you something. Black folks don't go running in no fires, brother. We run out." And he laughed at me. He's since passed away, but we never forgot that moment. I filled the application out, and he said, "There's only 2 of us in the small city, 1 but 3 stations in the city, but there ain't but 2. And he said, "I'm an engineer, and the other one is an engineer. We don't have anybody else coming up." Luckily, by the grace of God, I was offered the job, but I sat there with 2 other young white guys that I knew that played football at the other high school. And I never forget, this chief said, "Don't think you got the position because of who you are." And I always took that was I got the position because of who I am. So just segueing back into your conversation, Jacob, look, I think one thing that's missing is the history. Because I've been privileged to train, to recruit the next generation behind me. The history, from their standpoint, because they were in the South, the history is always hidden. You got to hunt for the history, and we didn't have the unions and things like that to really engage us. And some of the chapters, when I first learned about the first the chapter was out of Myrtle Beach, and then nobody was a part of it. So, it was one of those things that from the upstate of how South Carolina is designed, you in departments where literally you might be the only Black fireman in the whole department. You come down towards Columbia, and I know y'all know all the history. Chief Jenkins, Aubrey Jenkins, is the city fire chief of the city of Columbia, the first Black fire chief in the city. That's the largest fire department in South Carolina. I think they're up to maybe 38 stations right now. So in South Carolina, that's big. And he leads the capital city fire department. When you move around here, what's discouraging when you try to recruit is, first off, the trucks running in our neighborhoods don't look like us. So, and they're not recruiting us. It's a good boy system. And oftentimes for me, I had to move from one department to another department, skip over to the next county, and go back to college and get my degree in it just to get the opportunity. So the history that I'm hearing from you guys is solid. You know, that's something.
Could I just interject for 1 second?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I just want to throw something out there before it slips my mind. In the times that we're living in right now, with all this civil unrest and the way this country's going and the hatred and all this, there's a brother that his name needs to be mentioned, Vinnie Julius. Because of what he did, the fire hoses that were turned on Black people when we were struggling during the civil rights days, he put through legislation to stop that from happening. Stop firefighters from hosing down black people as they protest for our civil rights. I just want to throw that out there while it jumped in my head. You can continue, my brother.
No. And like I said, those are key things that, you know, when I'm being in politics, okay, now I'm have that opportunity where I'm in the career centers. We have great education systems here in my city. We you know, as far as our career center has a fire science program. So we're able to start recruiting the next generation of firefighters. Sometimes the hardest thing in that is recruiting us. And I think that, you know, through my brother in the film and entertainment side, I think that by showcasing this history and having it out there for our young generation, because they look at what's on TV. They want to see what's on TV. That's the hot thing. So I think you're doing a great service, sir, by highlighting this history so that it could spark the minds of our young men and women to gain access into the fire service.
Thank you.
All right,
I want to jump back in there one more time too.
Yes.
For the young ladies in the audience, this is a story that you need to hear. We had a pretty serious fire. I was in search and rescue. You know, I went at a good fire down in the basement. They knocking fire down. I'm searching, make sure nobody's trapped, try and get them out if they are. And after the fire was knocked down, nobody was hurt, fortunately. I had to ask, who was that on that knob? Who was on the knob? Who did this? Because they knocked out a lot of fire. And it was this young lady named Joanne Jacobs, Black woman. You know, I didn't even know we had a Black woman in the battalion, you know. And so to say to young ladies out there, this is not just a job for young men. This is a job for those who want to do it.
All right, you heard it first. This is not for just men. It's for those who want to give their service and build a career as a firefighter. So we're gonna take a quick commercial break just to let you know this show is sponsored by Unique Blessings nonprofit organization. So we'll take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, thank you. We're back again. So we're going to go to Brother Muhammad. You didn't get to answer this question. What made you want to become a firefighter? And, you know, with becoming a firefighter, what did it open your eyes up to?
Yes, sir. I like Brother Councilman no one ever heard me say I wanted to become a firefighter prior to getting on the job. I was actually recruited by the group of firefighters that were on the job who wanted to see more blacks on the job. And so I happen to come from a family of educators. And so I said to the brother who, well, it was more than one, but this particular one was my brother-in-law. And I said, well, tell me more about it. And he told me the time on the job, what you had to do. He told me the time off the job and what you could do. And that raised a beautiful flag in my mind. What? I have this many days off to do the things I want to do? And I was very much interested in teaching young people. And I had already established my own independent workshops that I did with young people, working with various community groups. So I said, well, why not? The money was more than I was making at the time. And the time off, I said, I think I can raise my family with this. And the rest is history, not knowing that there were so many blessings in it beyond what brother was saying to me about what the job was about. So I thank him, my brother-in-law, and all the brothers, as Brother Duery said, on whose shoulders we stand and on whose wings we fly. So I want to thank Sister, I believe it was Chantel, who asked that question, and wanted to give her a shout out, as well as your last commercial with Unique Blessings, because all of us have a unique story to tell if we had the time, right? And I have a granddaughter named Blessing, so Unique Blessings is true to my heart. But you know, one of the things that Brother Crenshaw and Brother Duery are finding out about me is, like, I like to connect the dots, man. I like to show the continuity of where we are. And if I may, first of all, Brother King Jacob, when you said edutainment or education and entertainment, it reminded me of KRS-One. Y'all don't get it twisted. I'm not that old, you know, even though hip hop is almost 50 years old now.
Right.
Yeah. KRS-One used to say, and you must learn the 1990s vision is a unanimous decision. One that caters to your own return means that you must learn, right? So when
that's right.
You sparked it, and I had to, you know, get that back to you. When Brother Duery talked about Chief Wesley Williams, his grandson, I believe, is an author and wrote a book about Chief Wesley Williams called The Chief. So that's a reference I want to give to your viewing audience. And in fact, Chief Wesley Williams was so beautiful, as Brother Sloan said, a warrior to the community in New York City. They named 135th Street after him, which on one block is in front of the YMCA where he used to work out. You'll see in the book a picture of him. He looked like he just was in the Olympics. He put them swimmers to shame. The way he looked. You'll see the picture when you get the book. But down the street on 135th Street, that's named after him, is the Schomburg Library and Research Center, which is one of the meccas of research of Black people globally.
That's true.
And that was Chief Wesley Williams on 135th Street in Harlem. Talking about sisters in the fire service, and brother mentioned our dear brother historian out of Chicago. You may or may not know that Chicago just swore in our dear sister, Commissioner. That's right, Commissioner, the top spot, Annette Hope Nance, or Annette Nance Hope, pardon me if I got the name wrong. But she came through the ranks. She was one of them sisters on the nozzle that Brother Duery told the story about. And now she's the commissioner of the third biggest firefighter organization in America, as well as the president of the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters. Currently is a sister, Sister Carrie Edwards Clemens out of Flint, Michigan. So we want to always lift our sisters up. Brother talked about George Collins, and we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. There was a brother back in the 50s when they weren't hiring blacks in Baltimore. He was a volunteer by the name of Arthur Smokestack Hardy. he was the first brother who he was interested in how many blacks are in America. So he wrote to all the Caucasian chiefs in America. Some of them answered and told them how many were on the job. Some of them didn't. And some of them told him where he could stick that request, right? But the beginning of the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters was based on Arthur Smokestack Hardy's database in the 50s, right? So that's a connection. Brother Duery talked about Paul Washington, who was third generation. His father and his grandfather were on the job in New York City, and he was the president right before 9/11. But many of the people went to him because he had led the Vulcan Society, as Brother Duery knows. But look how God works in his infinite wisdom, Brother Crenshaw. 12 brothers died in 9/11 at the World Trade Center out of 343. That's only 3%, which was actually the same percentage of blacks on the job. 3% of New York City at that time, FDNY, had almost 12,000 people on the job.
Wow.
Firefighters, God brought that because why? The Vulcan Society of New York was suing the city for years of discrimination. And look how it was brought forth of the 12 brothers that died out of the 343. And Paul Washington played a critical point. And lastly, when you say I'm the uncle you didn't know you had brothers, how y'all know I'm like Cousin Pete, Tupac on Poetic Justice, brother? I'm always that brother that busts in the cookouts, let you know I'm the cousin you ain't know you had. So I had to put that in there. I had to put that in there. And lastly, brother talked about Vinnie Julius, who I stand on his shoulders. He's one of the first historians. And so at one point, I asked him, I said, may God be pleased with him. He passed away a few years back. I said, what got you interested in the history and doing the legwork that Brother Smith was talking about? He said it was the murder of Emmett Till.
Oh, wow.
1954.
Right.
So he wanted to make sure the Caucasians in leadership on the job in the union in New York City made a statement that we're not going for that. And sure enough, he was able to influence the president of the union at that time that wrote all kinds of citations, both locally and internationally, that the firefighters, you know, we couldn't stand for that. And it was because of the gangster in a Denzel Washington kind of way, the gangster that Vinnie Julius and those with him put on them Caucasians. Because look, Emmett Till and everything that happened after that, Brown versus Board of Education, everything that happened after that, the Montgomery boycott, all of that led up to when Vinnie Julius was having conversations with brothers in New York. They were saying, yo, why don't we think about getting a national organization together? We got a group here in New York City, but do we know all the blacks around the country that might be feeling the same thing we feeling? And by the time they got with Smokestack Hardy, they did their other homework, development research. They had a meeting in New York City in 1969, and in 1970, brothers came together and sisters who supported them to start the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters.
That's
So
dope.
thank you for letting me connect
Just
with
to
that.
piggyback on that.
I'm a Muslim, brother. Can you say camelback, Brother Smith?
Camelback. Sorry, Brother Muhammad.
No, pardon my walk, brother. That's all.
Can I jump on top of that? I just want to go back to Wesley Williams. Wesley Williams, when they have that saying, it takes a village. His dad was a pullman for the railroad, and he was connected, boom, boom, boom. But they knew he was going to the fire service. Do you know that they took him to that Y that has a plaque out there for him? And a professional boxer, I forget his name right now, was training him up, because back then you could duke it out. You know about it, right, Brother Muhammad?
That's right.
You could duke it out, you know, but things have changed now. Laws have changed, people, boom, boom, boom. But back then, they trained him up to represent the community, and the whole community was responsible in supporting him. You know, the politicians, the newspaper people that wrote him up because he was a brave man. He made some heroic with you know the scaling ladder.
Pompier ladders.
And a lot of people don't know about it. You take
Right.
it, you throw it up to the next
Right.
level, you climb up. He rescued people like that. You know what I'm saying? The man was a hero, you know. So that's that part. But with something that a lot of people don't understand also is that the building that you were talking about in Brooklyn that the blacks own on 739 Eastern Parkway, the only fraternal organization that own their own building are black. The other fraternity, the Emeralds and everybody else, they don't own this. So that's an accomplishment in itself. So we can all come together and talk about issues that are important to us. Out of that building, Dave Floyd, Vinnie Julius, all these cats, they got together. They said that's where the international branched out from that building. You know, so it's like for the people in the audience, all I'm trying to say is nothing comes without sacrifice. Dave Floyd, I love him like a brother. He's no longer with us. You know, it's one of my great mentors, him, Arnie Hyatt, said that guy could have been anything. He made it up to the rank of captain, but he could have been anything. But he sacrificed so much for those coming behind.
That's right.
That's what we do. You know, we say, okay, boom. That's why Donald and I are trying to get this off the ground, because people need to know that there's a history here that you don't know about, that you need to know about. And once you find out about it, you want to be a part of it, you know? So it's just it's a moving project. And our experience from since they brought us to this country has been a work in progress. And all we have is each other. We have those that sympathize with us, empathize with us. I was hoping that I just got off the phone today with Richard Levy. He was one of the gentlemen that helped us in our lawsuit. John Coons, myself, Mike Marshall, and Paul Washington were the four people who spearheaded the lawsuit in New York. And Richard Levy took it pro bono to fight this cause for us. And he was successful. And as a result, you'll see in our documentary the results. But the work is not yet finished. It needs to be completed. We need to get this message out here. We need people to understand that, yes, we can, you know. Back to you, my brother.
All right. So,
hey, Jacob. Jacob, I'm sorry. I'm going to camelback. I'm not going to
go ahead.
I'm going to do it real quick here. But
okay.
My brother Muhammad brought up something that I think your viewers really need to understand about when you talk about history and then it transpires into current. Brother Muhammad said something about, you know, volunteers.
Right.
I don't think the world, not just your viewers, but the world don't understand that, you know, the high volume of the fire service is still volunteers.
Right.
It's not paid full time services. It's volunteer. And, you know, just bringing it to the South just for a second, a lot of your departments that were black started from churches. And I remember the brother that brought me in my county in Greenwood, as you know, Jacob, when I went to work for the city, you know, it was an area of Greenwood County called Promised Land.
Right.
Promised Land is a black community. Well, that department in Promised Land was all volunteer. And this brother brought me in. He said, look, you need to see some more of us that exist. They not paid. They not downtown where I'm at. You got to go to the country. That's where they at. But when they gave me the history of that area, that's why I made it my mission, because brothers looked at me out there and said, you a paid fireman? You full time in the city? You must be on your P's and Q's. But the county did not respect that department even in my era. in the fire service. But when I looked at the history, they started by the churches. They started by the churches in the South. And I'm not sure what the history was in the North, but the churches, the black churches got together and pooled money in those communities, and they had the bucket brigades. They had this trip with buckets of water, and that's what they done. So I got submersed in that history, and that's what really made me respect my job, because I was around some of those guys that were still living that started that department. And they said, you have a weight on your shoulder that you don't understand yet, but you're a humble young man, and I know you're going to get it one day. And I did. And you know, I give all respect back to them. Just wanted to add that in about the volunteers.
Oh, that's good information.
Okay. Appreciate that. Now, the next question, we got about 10 minutes left, and I want to go into this question, man, because I want to know myself. So, being a firefighter, and trying to advance to that next level of advancement in your career, how hard was that for a black firefighter?
I could start that conversation off. Basically, it's not hard at all. It's about you wanting it hard enough to sacrifice the time necessary to read the material, take the test, and pass it. The only problem with certain departments was that they say these are the requirements, and then when you meet those requirements, I think they're going through it in New Haven right now and a couple other places. They move the goalposts. They say, okay, now you need this too, and you know, now we're gonna have a lottery. You know, even though the first 5 guys on the list are black, but now you need this also in order to. That's what's happening in New Haven right now. You know, but you know. When I was coming up, I would have been able to move up the ranks. I never did. The reason why I never did is because with moving up the ranks comes a lot of responsibility also. You know, I've met and worked with guys who had meltdowns when you lose a guy or something happens. You know I could take care of myself in the fire service. I really wasn't looking to move up. But the younger generation should be, because with moving up the ranks, I didn't know it back then, but now moving up the ranks, you can make policy decisions. You can change what happens in your firehouse, in your district, whatever, you know. So I encourage everybody to do it. The problem is, you know, the people in power need to be put in check, because when you have the credentials necessary and get that accreditation, they move the goalposts and say you need additional stuff. But as you've seen, and Brother Muhammad can attest to, like especially Sister Carrie Edwards in Michigan, we just got back from there. She's fighting a fight now up there with the administration just changing the rules, you know, haphazardly, you know. So it's always a fight, you know, but primarily with civil service, if you put the work in, you study, you can move up, and you need a little something extra only because of the color of your skin. It's sad. Okay. But like I say, this is America.
Okay, so with that being said, and I'm gonna go to you, Brother Muhammad, with the same question, and then I'm gonna reiterate on, is there going to be a part in the film of these questions? So with that being said, climbing the ranks, there's certain tests you have to take, but they give you additional tests before you can get another rank. And so, and mostly the additional test is for black and brown people. So within you know,
I don't want to be misunderstood. It's not just black and brown people. The problem comes in if you pass a test and the top 4 people for that position happen to be black, then they will come out and say, you need extra in order to, or we'll make it a lottery system now. We'll have like 2 out of the 4 might make it. So it's just the same thing that happens all the time. They just keep changing the game.
But don't you feel like, as a black man, as a divine black man, a black man of intellectual presence, don't you feel like that's a form of racial profiling?
Without a doubt.
Okay, so with that being said, what are the obstacles that a lot of black firefighters overcame with that level of racial profiling? Because it's a lot of, from what I'm understanding and gathering information, it's a lot of, exclusive black firefighters that climbed the ranks and just paved the way. So not only black people can advance, but for people from all nationalities can advance. And so I think that's brilliant in itself. And so, I'm so glad I have you guys on here, because even in the HR system, there's a lot of racial profiling. And I know with you guys climbing through the ranks, it was some barriers that you had to overcome. And so my thing is, how did you move to that next plateau of rank? And how did you overcome those barriers mentally, so you can mentally and emotionally, so you can discipline yourself to go to the next level? Because if you can't discipline yourself mentally and emotionally, then you can't get to that next plateau. It takes a lot of discipline, man, and it takes a lot of critiquing things that you would want to say, but you say them, but you just iterate them in another way.
So,
Muhammad?
Yeah, well, I agree with you. You're right, Brother Jacob. That's a key to assessment. And you have to understand that different locations have different ways of moving the goalposts, as Brother Smith would say. But with the ingenuity of black people, we figure it out and we keep it moving. So at a certain point nationally, that was the key of bringing firefighters together from all over the country, because where Brother Councilman is in South Carolina may be a little bit different than New Orleans, different than New York, different than California. So at a certain point, it used to be a policy to get national recognition and certification. You had to get it from the National Fire Academy in Emmitsburg, Maryland. And so in order to even attend the subjects to get the degrees and the certificates, your fire chief had to sign off on you for you to be qualified to go there. So they, of course, want to sign off on their nephews and their sons, and bros never had a chance. So, I mean, that doesn't stop us. We developed our own institute, the Executive Development Institute, that first started in 1991 at FAMU in Tallahassee, Florida. Then after about 5 years, it moved to Dillard University in New Orleans. Then when Katrina hit, it moved to Clark, Atlanta. This is our own. It's our FUBU, for us, by us. You hear me? Because at that point, brothers had shown that they were leaders in the fire service. So even as if they went to the school, the class as students, they were also instructors, because there were quite a few of them that were either chiefs of their departments, or like Brother Smith and I, using a football analogy, Brother Griffin, if he's scoring the touchdowns, he's not scoring it by himself. There's somebody blocking in front of him. So it took warriors to fight to get brothers in position so that they would reach back to pull us forward. And so it's back at Dillard University, the Dr. Carl Holmes, who's out of Oklahoma City. He passed away a few years ago, but they named the institute after him because he was such a brilliant project manager and strategic planner. He retired as an assistant chief of the Oklahoma City Fire Department, but he was looked to and respected by Caucasians all over the world for his ingenuity. So in New York, they played a game with the multiple kind of tests, A, B, C, D, whatever you pick, right? And then they moved the goalposts, blah, blah, blah. Dr. Holmes said, look, you need to have an assessment test. He developed the first assessment test in America where it's more of a panel discussion where chiefs get in front of you, ask you various questions in addition to the multi-level, because they play too many games with that ABCD action. So anybody who could have a lucky day and put in the box ABCD, suppose they were being qualified to be a pilot. That doesn't make them qualified to be a pilot. You want to see the man be able to fly the plane, depart and arrive safely. Same with a firefighter. It was Dr. Holmes, got to be pleased with him, that bust that up. So it's different levels of our fight. Brother Duery said, and it can be exemplified. Our brother Shaft, Richard Roundtree, played in a movie in the 60s called Firehouse, Brother Crenshaw. And in it was a clip, an enactment where he went out in the parking lot and fought the Caucasian, because that's the way it was in the 60s, for real. Right? But in the 70s, the blacks got smart enough to start going to the Department of Justice and suing these Caucasians for discrimination. And that was a whole nother level of fight. And then with that policy I just exemplified or shared, we get our own. We do our own, bro. So we have our own. I think the problem now is with the younger generation, they grew up in the sandbox with Caucasians. And some of them think that the Caucasians' ice is colder. You understand? And so when Vinnie Julius and the OG started the organization, it was clear because Emmett Till was the focal point. Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, with the recent civil unrest as it related to Mike Brown, and
I'm going to jump in there for Brother Muhammad. And basically what he's saying is like, yeah, we got to struggle. The struggle continues. And I want to say something that's very important. There are quite a few, just like if it was not good Caucasian people that stood up for humanity, we still be slaves. So even in the fire service, I worked with some of the greatest guys who didn't look like me. But there's always those who are stuck in the mud that don't want to do the right thing. And those are the people that we're addressing this type of conversation towards. Don't let it get twisted like we just don't like white people. No, it's not that. What we're trying to do is we're trying to look after ours just like they look after theirs.
Okay, so I'm going to go to Mr. Film Director, and then I'm going to come back to you, Councilman.
Oh.
So, Brother Donald,
Yes,
in this documentary, you know, we talked about, you know, the levels of going to the next, you know, job level, as far as, you know, climbing that plateau and getting to the next level. So will there be something about that in the documentary as well, about the struggle, you know, that Black firemen had trying to climb the ranking?
Of course. We're going back to the 40s.
We're going back to 1919. Yeah. We're going back to 1919, actually.
Okay.
Even further.
Yeah.
So with what Brother Muhammad just said, we're going back to Africa.
Right?
Yeah. So, and with that being said, I'm pretty sure in this documentary, because I'm a big advocate of mental health, you know, emotional health. I'm a big advocate of, you know, as we call it, psychological health. You know what I mean? And so with all the things that Black firemen went through during the Depression days, you know, how did they protect their mental health against, you know, against the mental and emotional battery of racism, you know?
Donald, can I step in for a second?
Go ahead.
It's unfortunate. A brother that was supposed to be on this panel tonight, Eshawn Scott, retired firefighter up from Harlem. He lost a good friend of his and a friend of mine also to the mental health issue. And a lot of people go through issues and he was supposed to speak to that issue. So hopefully, it's going to be brought out in our documentary. But also, if you plan on doing a second segment of this, we'll try and see to it that we have those type of people.
Believe this. We definitely going to do a second segment on emotional and mental health of the Black firemen. We definitely gonna do a second segment on that. So, I just wanted to throw that in there because I know with you being a film director, you're gonna have punchlines for all levels of what Black firefighters went through. And so I really can't wait to see it, man. I'm really looking forward to seeing your work, man, cause to put this history in a form of art, that's going to be something phenomenal. So I salute you for real.
It's not only art, it's from a historical value too, because once it's on film, they can't take it away from you. It's there. It's known.
So it then becomes a time capsule.
Yep.
Right. Of course, but the history and the art form going together. Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's deep. So we're gonna let you chime in, Councilman, and then after that we're gonna let everybody drop some announcements, and then we're gonna get out of here.
Okay. No problem. No, I'm usually not this quiet, but I wanted to digest, take in this history. Anytime that I have been in the presence of firemen, from New York and these various other big cities, especially that looks like me, I take in that history because a lot of the things that we got come from those bigger cities. It trickles downhill, believe it or not. But I want to go back on something that you was talking about, and I apologize. I stepped away. My little one is still kind of under the weather, and I'm on daddy duty.
Sound like my background.
There you go. But I wanted to go back on the career advancements, and you're talking about how do you get promoted, and I was still hearing the conversation. To me, yes, things have changed, but it's just like the analogy about being in the sandbox. We think it's cool because we think we tied in. We think we on the same level playing field when we're not. We're not nowhere near that same level playing field at all. As far as me, I can speak for me as far as advancing, because folks always say, how did you get to here? And it's always been my goal to reach back. I always do that every chance I get. If somebody calls me right now, as you remember, Brother Jacob was talking the other week, if I get a call from somebody saying, hey, I need you to mentor me, I'm gonna be like, hey guys, I gotta go. That's the thing. I'm always reaching back because it wasn't easy, not at all. And that analogy, I said I had to go from this department to that department to this department. All I was doing, to be frank, is finding some good white folks that would give me the opportunity, because the departments did not look like me. So I needed some folks that could say, hey, we'll give you an opportunity. I know when I go, I got to show up and show out. I used to say, I'm the Cam Newton. When I show up on the go, I'm ready. When I would deploy out for natural disasters, I used to go in and say, all right, the man here, let's go. What you got? And I get my brief. And so, some folks say, oh, you're arrogant. No, I'm confident. I know my skill set. I know what I need. I know what I need around me to be successful, to mitigate whatever situations that we own. But, I had folks that looked like me, unfortunately, that didn't want me to get to where I'm at. That's the other reality, as well as those other folks. Some of it was the crab in the bucket mentality, unfortunately. But, for me, one thing that I got tired of hearing was this. I got my firefighter 1. In South Carolina, we have to take OSHA firefighter. So here, because of the volunteer network, people don't have the time to go take fire 1 and fire 2. So they do an OSHA version, which is a very small version of Fire One. And if you can pass it, you can go interior. All right. But to get the bigger jobs, you got to get 1 and 2, hazmat and all that stuff. Well, I've done all of that. And I was applying to go up to Emmitsburg to take all the other different, national courses, and Chiefs wouldn't sign off on it. You know how I worked around that, Jacob? I went and found some other Chiefs that liked me. And I got them to say, hey, look, just sign off on it. I'll take off. I took off, used my paid leave. Mm-hmm. And I paid my own fare to go up there. So I attained those classes. But the thing that made me go back to get a college degree, gentlemen, because that's what they're doing now, is to move up into these chief officer positions. The caveat now is having a bachelor's degree. Some of it is having a master's degree. What I did was I made a conscious decision, because I got tired of hearing, when I go to interviews, you have the experience. You have all the courses. We like you. You're great as a captain out here. If you had a college degree, we would give you a chance. And I made a conscious decision. I done my college degree online, on duty. And the chief that I worked for, great guy. He paid me extra money every semester, every quarter, and hey, you made the dean's list. Here go extra bonus pay. So it motivated me to get there, because even he's seen the lack of motivation from his guys to even get the necessary degrees to advance. So I seized the moment and the opportunity of laziness amongst the mass.
And may I just throw something in there that people need to think about? It's all done. It's sort of like what they're doing now with the voting, with our ability to vote. All you need to do is be trained to be a firefighter if you have the heart and the will. All this other stuff is unnecessary. 900% of it you're not going to use. All you need is to want to do the job and have effective people train you properly and send you in the right direction. All this other stuff is just a way to keep you out. Bottom line.
Yep. And you're absolutely right on that. And I'll add this too: the agility course tests. The agility course test, we pass that test with flying colors because we're athletes. That agility test that they do after the written test is nothing for us. We run through that test, but we still don't get recognized. Matter of fact, I'm gonna show you one department. I took their agility test, and they put these heart monitors on your chest. And what they were saying was, when your heart rate get to a certain level in the middle of the test, stop. They'll yell at you. They're looking at a computer screen and they say, Griffin, stop. But your time keep going. Right. And what they were doing was using the medical term, biometrics and race and all this, where they could get ahead. Now you had to stop, and it allowed their friend to get ahead of you a couple steps, and then they tell you to start back.
Wow.
I don't want to talk about things like a lot. It's so much, and it's so
a lot.
Sad.
Man.
It's so sad.
Fellas, we definitely gonna have a part 2, because this segment has, and I'll definitely let you guys know. We'll probably have part 2 in a couple weeks.
Right,
so
cool.
I'll definitely let you guys know. But I want to say this has been a I'm gonna call it a star-studded episode. Because you guys, you brought some history, and you brought a lot of history, and you brought a lot of corporate side of becoming a black firefighter, because it's a lot of corporate structure when you're trying to climb that ladder, climb that rank. So, I definitely appreciate all you guys for coming on. Go ahead.
Could I just one more thing? Donald, can you speak to the website, the
GoFundMe?
Could you speak to that for a second?
Yes, we are an effort to create an epic documentary, we've set up a GoFundMe page, and the link is Our Community Heroes. It's where you can find it. GoFundMe Community Heroes, or GoFundMe, look for Duery Smith, and you'll find it. We can use the support to get this documentary done, which will seemingly be a movie once we get it all completed. That is the goal, to go from the documentary to doing a feature film as well. But we want the
so let me ask you this, Donald. Now, have you reached this platform to a PR, a public relations person that would want to come on, that would want to come in on the back end? And
well, if you have someone, we're interested in talking.
I do, and I'll be in contact with both of you guys this week. I do, right. And I just want to know if you guys have any announcements. Brother Muhammad, Councilman Griffin, is there any announcements of any up and coming seminars, events, anything that y'all have on the back end that's coming up? For the youth, for the young adults, for people that might want to take some certifications, get some more education. Is there anything that you can tell the masses about anything that's coming up?
I'll say this, since we're coming out of a COVID era, COVID was, as we all know, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking COVID pretty much shut everything down, and trying to figure out how to do certain skill sets, just as Mr. Smith said, to be a fireman, you don't really need all this stuff. Those are barriers that's in the way. It's hands-on. You need to be out there working. So right now, what I see, and I work hand in hand with my colleagues out at the South Carolina Fire Academy here all the time in my professional capacity and emergency management for the state. And what we're doing and what we're seeing is how to start classes back with the variant out there. You're seeing a lot of more local based training in some of the departments again that's managed through the state here. But I'll end on this note, Jacob, be ready. That's what I can tell everybody that's looking at careers. COVID-19, if COVID-19 didn't teach you something, it should have taught you this. It should have opened your eyes to careers that don't stop.
Right.
That when and I'm not picking on any particular business, but when Walmart closed their doors, because Walmart's known to be closed only one day a year, and that's Christmas Day. But when Walmart has to close its doors, we seen where careers stopped. Careers that didn't stop was fire, law enforcement, EMS, and truck drivers, nursing, those fields that are high in demand. The fire service is high in demand. And one thing too that we'll talk about on the next one, Jacob, we got to talk about the pay gaps. No, we ain't got time, but right. I know sometimes the pay in the South is not as attractive to folks to get in, because when I got in, I'll share it, I only made $25,000 a year to put my life on the line when I first walked in those doors. But I'll tell the young folks out there, be ready to step into these careers and go to work.
All right. Anyone else?
Well, I'd just like to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of this august panel, Brother Jacob. And as Brother Councilman Griffin was saying, we want our youth, as Brother Crenshaw said earlier, it's about our community heroes. So we want our youth to understand, both male and female, to create safety for your community is critically important. And why not get paid for it? The other thing is that you can create benefits for your family. And lastly, you can create a career. in the fire and emergency medical service. In terms of where to go because of technology, you can go to the website of the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters, IABPF.org, to get the updated information all over the country. And lastly, because technology is great, it's just not an exact science, and I apologize for blacking out. My technology went crazy on me, but it just wanted to see, as a firefighter, how I was going to meet and overcome all obstacles in my path. And so, Brother Councilman, when you talked about the brother who's the chief in South Carolina, let not us think that we know who is everywhere. So I don't know who knows that brother. So we need to network with that brother,
Yes.
so we can hear his story, right? And
Yep.
because you were blessed to matriculate into politics, you remind me of a brother I know who came through the fire service, who got a chief's position, is now a senator from Tulsa, Oklahoma, Kevin Matthews. So I don't know if you've connected with him. But
No, I need to.
connected with him as well. So
Hey.
again, Brother King Jacob, thank you, brother. We salute you, brother. Thank you for your efforts. May God
Appreciate y'all.
But
So,
Brother Jacob,
Brother Malcolm.
we would be remiss to leave here with September 11th coming up, without mentioning the 342 souls that perished on September 11th. 12 of them happened to be Black. So let's just let's remember them in our prayers on September 11th, which is coming up. And in Brooklyn, they're doing something on the 11th to honor them. And I guess you can go on the Vulcan Society website, and they probably have some information for those in that area that might want to participate.
Okay. Yes, we definitely, honor our fallen soldiers and honor their families, because once the soldier fall, the family definitely goes through a emotional and mental type crisis. And so we got to keep them in prayers too. And like I said, I just salute all you guys. Thanks for coming on. And I'll definitely be in contact with all of you to let you know when we're going to do part 2, because we most definitely going to get down to the nitty gritty with part 2 about the pay gap, about the emotional, mental depression, and also about the suicide prevention of a Black firefighter and stuff like that, because mental health is important, especially when you got your life on the line, and especially when you see a child that maybe have a 3rd-degree burn. That kind of bothers some people. Some people can't stomach that and handle that. And so we'll definitely chop it up about that. But until next time, peace, blessings, and love to you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir.